Hello, everybody. Rick Manning, President Americans for Limited Government here. They went off and did it. They indicted President Trump. Unbelievable. A lot of people are just kind of shocked by it. But, so let's talk about what this actually means, because the truth of the matter is this indictment is going to make Donald Trump much, much stronger, much stronger. And so when we look at, and so there was actually a poll done by Quinnipiac back in let's see, March 23, 27, ages ago, whole 4 days ago. 1,788 people, so massive quantity. Normally these polls are 800 to 1,000, so it's double the normal size of a poll. So you've got a reasonable expectation that the poll is reasonably accurate. Okay, and what this poll shows, I'm going to click over to it right now so you can see it. What this poll shows is that it asks a simple question. It says, do you think this is motivated by politics? Do you think this is motivated by politics or motivated by the law? Very simple question. And 62% of the people polled said it's motivated by politics. 32% said it's motivated by law. And a very small percentage of people didn't know. Okay, that's 5% didn't know, which means this is already a set idea. People have made up their mind. They said, and it'll be up to the media, the left-wing media, to try to convince people that this is legitimate. But recognize Donald Trump has been under attack for 6 years, and the numbers show that Donald Trump, amongst the same audience, would probably unfavorable be upside down, more people would view him unfavorably than favorably. At least that's what the recent polls have shown. But when it comes to this question, this question is very clear. The people are saying that this is motivated by politics. But it's not just that. It's really significant. When you look at it, who's saying it's mainly politics? Well, your independent voters, who are generally the ones who they go both ways. The independent voters, 70 to 26 in terms of motivated by politics. That's a massive number. And remember, the independents are effectively 1/3 of the electorate, and perhaps a little bit more. So you have and I don't know how they sorted it in this poll, but independents are where you at the battleground. That's where you fight over to try to get their votes. And independents have rejected this and rejected it overwhelmingly. This is terrible news for the Democrats, who basically have longed for the indictment of Donald Trump on anything. They didn't care what. Let's look at the rest of this poll here. We're going to click on that because there's some interesting stuff here that I want to just point out. And it makes the case, and I need to get my head out of the way. So let me see what I need to do to get my head out of the way here. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Maybe you can't. Okay, I'm just going to go back to here. Okay, when you look at this, it says mainly, you got the mainly politics, you got men, women, you got white 4-year college degree. Now you can see the difference. White 4-year college degree, mainly politics 48. No, somehow it's 70. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Mainly law 48 to 24. So you have a straight split between people who say it's mainly politics versus mainly law, of people who are college educated. Those are largely Democrat voters, okay? And so you have Democrat voters, and because Donald Trump loses amongst college educated, he wins under people who aren't in college, which means essentially even Biden's core constituency, the left's core constituency, is split on the validity of this. You look down and you then go age and years, which is astonishing. 18 to 34, that's the Democrats' core constituency. Mainly politics, 69%. Mainly law, 24%. 3-to-1, almost 3-to-1. People who are 18 to 34 say this is nothing more than political garbage. 35 to 49, 63 to 34. Mainly politics over mainly law. 50 to 64, 61 to 35. So, and then 65 plus, 55, 39. So interestingly, the older you get, the more likely you're to believe it's mainly law. And the younger you are, the more likely you are to believe it's mainly politics. But the fact is, there's still at least a 1.5 to 1 advantage at any age group about it being mainly politics. Men believe it's mainly politics much more than women do. 68% believe it's mainly politics. White men, 57% mainly politics. Women. But let's look at what blacks and Hispanics are how they're viewing it. We put out a piece today. Americans for Limited Government put out a piece. I guess we're putting it out on Monday that shows how the black vote has really slid away from the Democrats quite a bit. It's not enough to where you can sit there and say that anybody's going to win the black vote on the Republican side, but it's a significant slippage, and so you look for that on Monday. But and we've done some other articles to this effect, but this kind of solidifies that. Blacks view this as mainly politics, 55 to 39. Hispanics, mainly politics, 60 to 35. The Hispanic figure is really important because Hispanics here, when you look at particularly the number of people who have recent ties to countries in Central America and other unstable, let's call them unstable countries where politics is basically whoever is in power throws the people who are not in power in jail. That's a history that they left. That's a history that has been rejected by a large part of the Hispanic community. And they recognize this for what it is. And so you look at this and you say, wait a second here. These guys have a massive problem. And they have a massive problem with this. And that is from a political perspective. So I didn't just put as the title of this, Trump prosecution makes him stronger, just because I wanted it to be so. These are the numbers that tell you it is. And I wanted you to know this because I want you to have hope that America sees this for what it is. You won't find this on MSNBC. You won't find it on CNN. You won't find it on your nightly news. You're not going to find it there. But people see beyond this. People see what's happening with this. People know they know garbage from non-garbage. I'm going to switch and just go to what Donald Trump said because I think this is important because his official statement is significant on this. And he identifies it that his first line, this is political persecution, election interference at the highest level in history. From the time I came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower, and even before I was sworn as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats, the enemy of the hardworking men and women of the country, have engaged in a witch hunt to destroy the Make America Great Again movement. You remember it just like I do. Russia, Russia, Russia. Mueller hoax. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Impeachment hoax. Impeachment hoax 2. Impeachment hoax 1. Impeachment hoax 2. The illegal and unconstitutional Mar-a-Lago raid. And now this. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump. But now they're doing the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The Democrats have cheated countless times over the decades, including spying on my campaign, but weaponizing our judicial justice system to punish a political opponent who just so happens to be a president of the United States and by far the leading Republican candidate for president has never happened before, ever. Okay, so Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who was handpicked and funded by George Soros, is a disgrace. Rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave taking over New York City, he's doing Joe Biden's dirty work, ignoring the murders and burglaries and assaults he should be focused on. This is how Bragg spends his time. Okay, so, and then he talks about how he believes it's going to backfire. The point is, this is Donald Trump's response. His response is exactly right. His response is truthful. It goes to the heart of what's actually happening, and that is that this is an assault on American principles. I'm going to remind people that Joe Biden, on a number of occasions, through both during the campaign for president in 2020 and prior to the 2022 election, has made a big deal about talking about the soul of America, and it's a battle for the soul of America. He keeps saying that. And he says it with real conviction. And he says it with real conviction because that's what he means. He actually means that this is a battle for the soul of America. And it's the only thing he said that I think is true. This is a battle for the soul of America. But it's not a battle that's going to be fought on battlefields. It's a battle that's fought for the hearts and minds of Americans. And what these initial polls show is that The battle for the soul of America by the left that wants to impose its will through weaponizing the judicial system is rejected by a large percentage of Americans. It's not a 51-49 thing. This is a 2-to-1 rejection of the weaponization. And quite honestly, if you took Donald Trump out of it and you put any other person into the same circumstance, I believe the rejection is 4 to 5-to-1. So understand, in a battle for the soul of America, the Biden administration and their cohorts at the New York District Attorney's Office, the radical left prosecutors that have been elected across the country with the money of George Soros, their actions are, and particularly as it relates to this political action, are completely and rejected by the people. That is good news. This is a snapshot of where we are in America at a time of crisis. And the people reject political prosecutions. They see it for what it is, and they say, no, we don't want this in America. This is not where America is. And so in the battle for the soul of America, there's much hope, because the people can see through the garbage and see it for what it is, in spite of all the indoctrination, in spite of all the money that's spent, in spite of all the time that's spent for over the 6 or 7 years demonizing Donald Trump. They see it for what it is. They see it as nothing more, nothing less than political persecution. And that's what it is. We've seen time and time again the Department of Justice under Donald Trump engage in political persecution of Donald Trump and his allies, and under Joe Biden engage in political persecution of Donald Trump and his allies. We see the disparate application of justice time and again. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a future video, but we see one of the things we see, and Katie Britt, Senator from Alabama, brought this up. She had Merrick Garland, AG, in front of her committee, and she asked him some simple questions about, well, gee, why? She discovered an actual memo that instructed the marshals who were guarding the Supreme Court justices' homes to tell them not to arrest people who were there illegally protesting, illegally trying to intimidate the judges. That's illegal under federal law. By the way, it's the same federal law. It's one of the federal laws that we were talking about yesterday when it came to the case with Jacob Chansley, in terms of trying to intimidate the law enforcement judges. So it's interestingly, they are not enforcing that law against protesters and others who are attempting to intimidate the Supreme Court over the Dobbs decision. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, and I'll show you the stuff. But I'll put out a video that you'll see probably on Saturday on that. But the people in this battle for the soul of America are rejecting the politicization, the weaponization of our criminal justice system. And I think many of them are just finally figuring out what's going on in terms of this weaponization, that, they've been able to turn a blind eye and say, that's not really real. That's not really important. That's not something that's really happening. But when you indict a former president on specious charges, it suddenly becomes real. And it suddenly becomes, what are you doing? This is not the country that we voted for. This is not the administration we voted for. And we reject it. And it's not just Trump supporters who are rejecting it. It's people across the board. David Potter in our office came in and had mentioned that Glenn Beck, who we all know, who not been a big supporter of Donald Trump, came on the air with a MAGA hat on, talking about how this was going to consolidate support around Donald Trump. That is 100% true. Before I'm going to take questions and stuff in a second, but I want to show you something in case you haven't seen it, and then I'll take questions. So let's do this. So here's
into the Russia collusion hoax.
President Trump has just been impeached on both Article 1 and...
The only president of the United States to be impeached for a second
January
time.
6th committee releasing its final 845-page report.
Former President Donald Trump has been indicted.
Remember this: nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack the same courage to do what is right. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. Embrace that label. Being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label, because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead.
This is a party that wants an outsider badly.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
You must keep pushing forward. Never, ever give up. There'll be times in your life you'll want to quit, you'll want to go home. I can't do it. I can't do it. Just never quit. You will build a future where we have the courage to chase our dreams no matter what the cynics and the doubters have to say. You will have the confidence to speak the hopes in your hearts and to express the love that stirs your souls. And you will have the faith to replace a broken establishment with a government that serves and protects the people. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just standing in their way. And I always will stand in their way.
And that was Donald Trump's response, an aspirational response, a response that calls us to the higher principles of this country, one that doesn't whine, doesn't complain, but explains what's at stake and talks about the fundamental principles and the soul of America. I played it so you could see it. This is not an endorsement of Donald Trump for president, although I think that this action is going to make it pretty clear that Donald Trump's going to be the Republican nominee for president. But let's just be clear. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about America. This is about who we're going to be. What country are we leave behind for the next generation? Will it be a country that believes in equal protection under the law? Will it be a country where political persecution is not tolerated? Will it be a country that believes that we have equal protection under the law? Or will it be a country where the law is determined by who wins elections? And those who are persecuted, if you lose an election, the stakes are much higher because your freedom and life could be on the line. And when you lose, what kind of country are we going to be? And the country that we're becoming, the country that we are being led to by this Department of Justice and the weaponized intelligence services, is not a country that our founding fathers would be proud to have founded. In fact, it is a country they would recognize. They would recognize that country as virtually every other country in the world that they said, no, we're not going to be that. We're going to be something different. We're going to be a country of laws. We're going to be not of men. We're going to have a country where it's the consent of the governed and that the government works for the people, not vice versa. That's the country that our founders founded and that we have to preserve. Getting frustrated, getting upset, walking away, curling up in a ball, saying we can't do anything, lets the other side win. Join us, Americans for Limited Government, in the fight to restore our constitutional principles and restore and win the battle for the soul of America that is found in the Declaration of Independence and in the first words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. We hold these words to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the soul of America. And when Joe Biden stands before Independence Hall and talks about the soul of America, and in that speech attacks the very DNA of this country that was written in that Independence Hall, we have to reject that. But we have to reject it lawfully, and we have to do it in a way which forever puts this stain on our country to rest. And that those people who endorsed the stain, who had the map, who had the actual brush that put the stain on the country, that they're never allowed to have power again. We have to defend our country. We have to win the ballot box. We have to be able to ensure that the ballot box is fairly counted. And because if we do not, the soul of our country will be irretrievably lost. And I, Rick Manning, am not willing to have the legacy of my generation to be the generation that lost America. Join us in the fight. You can go to Americans for Limited Government, go to dailytorch.com and subscribe. Get what we send out every day. Take action when we send out the take actions, but be part of the team and share this video if you feel inclined. It really is important. We have to get people engaged in a way that they've never been engaged before. I'm going to answer about 5. Lana Elpiner donated and praying for President Trump. So she went to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's raising a ton of money on this, by the way, and that's not a bad thing. Anita Palmer, I assume it's not Palmer, Anita Palmer, good dogs. Witch hunt. Yeah. Well, we've seen nothing but a witch hunt for the last 5 or 6 years. And remember, the Mueller investigation even came out and said, no, there's nothing there in terms of the Russia collusion. And in fact, their whole intent was trying to trap Donald Trump on obstruction of justice charge, which they failed. Let's go to, I'm glad that people are seeing the indictment of Trump as imitation. It certainly is illegitimate. And I think but once again, as the drumbeat comes from the left and is put through the mirrors of establishment controlled media, don't be surprised if you start seeing some numbers slip, because that's what they're going to be targeting people hard. We have to keep the drumbeat alive amongst our circles of influence about why in America we don't prosecute and persecute our former officials. If Donald Trump had done something which was stealing millions of dollars from the government, taking money from a foreign country and funneling money from a foreign country into bank accounts of his family and friends, and had been actively involved in building his own wealth at the extent of the country, that's basically, that would be prosecutable. That'd be impeachable. There's nothing he did that was impeachable. And it just showed the simple fact that when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, I'll never forget that on the inauguration day, January 20th, 2017, on the front page of the Washington Post, where they just hired 100 reporters to investigate Trump, the front page said, "The resistance starts now." The same group of establishment foofs who demand that we kneel to election results, which, that we accept. We have to accept Joe Biden as president no matter what. Never accepted Donald Trump as president. Never did. And that's why they impeached him twice. That's why they had multiple special counsels. That's why they still have a special counsel. And it's all garbage, because the one thing they fear most is having their toy taken away from them, and the joining of the big business with big government, and the interlocking of big business and big government that shuts out the people. They're going to fight like crazy to protect their interests. It's up to us to make certain that we restore America to a place where individual liberty is paramount. Let's see here. What else do we have? Betsy, hopefully this will open more eyes about Democrat socialists trying to make America into. I think it does. I think there's shock value to it. And Betsy, I hope so too. The Democrat socialists have been running amok, and I think Antifa is their military wing. So yeah, they've been running amok, and I just, once again, that's why I keep harping on Soul of America. And I'll just tell you guys something that nobody, not even my staff, knows. I've been working with Star Parker to try to do an update on the Donald Trump book. This one. Let's see if I can get it down here. This book. Okay. Necessary Noise. And we're going to do an update. And I don't know if we're going to end up getting it done or not, but I wrote the first piece of it this updates it is exactly on the theme, the soul of America. And that's what, and so, yeah, this is a battle. And I just want to let you know that we're there. We're going to be there fighting the whole way, but we need you to be fighting alongside us. With that, I'm going to sign off. I appreciate everybody who came on here and everybody who shared thoughts, and just keep praying for the country and don't back down. And please share this broadcast if you feel inclined. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much. And we'll talk to you on Monday.